We didn't start by trying to raise any money at all. We just wanted to raise awareness. I just wanted people to know that they should check themselves for breast cancer monthly. That was more than I could ask for. And yet by doing these small events, suddenly it turned into events that people wanted to pay for. And they were willing to hand over, up to $50 for an event as a student is a lot of money. So it was really kind of like, for lack of cliche terminology, it was like a people power movement. Like that's what grew it and that's what continues to grow it.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. 20-Minute Leaders is a proud supporter of Make-A-Wish Israel and Tech to Peace, and is in proud collaboration with Secret Chord Ventures, J Ventures, Riverside FM, Fusion VC, Birthright Excel, J Impact, Leap, Google for Startups, and Hippo, and in media partnership with CTech. Welcome to another episode of 20-Minute Leaders. This one is about impact and how companies are making social impact with regards to ESG. Meet Nina Rauch. At age 16, she founded a breast cancer charity in memory of her late mother that sparked her passion for social impact and making a dent in the universe. Her campaign has since raised over $500,000, including almost $50,000 in under an hour, and spread nationwide. In 2018, she joined InsurTech Lemonade to lead social impact in ESG. She has distributed over $4 million in donations to over 100 partner organizations, and the impact has grown 4,000% higher. She was named one of the 100 women to watch by Barclays and has written for The Telegraph, Guardian, and Forbes. The world is changing quickly, and the way that you're impacting people's lives throughout your work at Lemonade, but also throughout the different initiatives that you've founded and organized, it's pretty remarkable. And so I want to unwrap in these 20 minutes a little bit about how your brain thinks through impact, social impact, ESG, Lemonade, the different fundraising and building organizations that make a positive impact. And so, Nina, take me all the way back to being 16. You're creating your first, real big impact in the world. What's going on there, and what is the driving force for you to then become an impact leader throughout your career?
Definitely. So I lost my mother to breast cancer when I was around 14 years old. And it really motivated me to see that there was probably a different way of approaching impact and charitable giving that was traditionally done by nonprofits. Because my thinking as a 16-year-old was, if I wasn't being targeted by a nonprofit and yet I needed to be aware of breast cancer from a young age, then probably so many of my peers were in the same position. So I thought, let's start to rethink impact and giving back and make it much more accessible, trendy, relatable for Gen Z and millennials. So I launched an initiative called Pink Week, which became a kind of a nationwide breast cancer campaign, raised hundreds and thousands of dollars made up from $5 donations, and all from people around the ages of 16 to 25 max.
Wow.
So it really made me think that the way that we're approaching impact and who we should be engaging with it is wrong. It should correlate both with the audience and the consumer. And that just kind of kickstarted my journey into just doing something that I love and I care about.
Wow. And so tell me about, sort of just the starting of this campaign and this organization. You raised, I think, a few dozen thousands of dollars just very early on, and then, another hundreds of thousands throughout the last few years. So what happened there?
It really just spiraled naturally. And I think that's like the greatest proof that I have that this method of young donors works. Because we didn't start by trying to raise any money at all. We just wanted to raise awareness. I just wanted people to know that they should check themselves for breast cancer monthly. That was more than I could ask for. And yet by doing these small events, suddenly it turned into events that people wanted to pay for. And they were willing to hand over, up to $50 for an event as a student is a lot of money. And so we realized that we were onto something. And it started to spiral and grow from campus to campus and was picked up completely organically by other university students who wanted to host it at their own campuses. So it was really kind of like, for lack of cliche terminology. It was like a people power movement. Like that's what grew it and that's what continues to grow it. And then eventually we also partnered with a larger nonprofit called Breast Cancer Now that kind of oversee a lot of the work. But yeah, it essentially spread all by itself. And people were just, wanting to talk about it, wanting to tap into something and wanting to be passionate about something. And I think they just hadn't been given the opportunity to do that previously.
Phenomenal. And so if you're looking at, your work today as a leader in social impact within Lemonade, and soon we'll get into some of the really amazing things you've done there with the partners. Is that the connecting line back to when you were 16 and creating that charity? Is that sort of was that your initial inspiration and motivation for becoming an impact leader throughout your career?
Definitely. I think the line is super clear because what it went from was being 16 and 20 and talking about nonprofit work and, social impact with my age group and my peers to then working for a startup where your audience is very similar. You're targeting Gen Z and millennials. You want to get them excited about your product. And a huge part of that is social impact. We know that I think up to 85% of millennials and Gen Z would rather purchase and work for a company that cares about giving back than one that doesn't. So there's a direct connection between who, the same people that I was working with Pink Week to the people that we work with today at Lemonade, which is incredible to see. I really didn't believe that it was possible to find a job that was as impactful as the one that I have is. So it's a real privilege.
Incredible. So you've distributed millions of dollars to more than 100 partner organizations. Just from the bio, you mentioned that the impact of the organization has grown basically 4,000%. What is it that you do really in Lemonade?
So at Lemonade, we have our social impacts, and I think it falls under around 4 categories. We have a huge focus on the environmental and climate. We've donated around $815,000 to around 17 climate organizations since 2017. And we also are very focused on the climate via our product. We have environmentally friendly car insurance, and we took a stance against investing in fossil fuels. But we also have our Give Back program, which is where we partner with nonprofits to donate unclaimed premiums at the end of the insurance year. And this is really kind of what has driven forward our social impact from the very beginning. And I would say our social impact has grown around the Give Back because it's very natural that once you start working with these nonprofit partners, you'll make adaptations within your product that will reflect the social impact stance and the charities that you're working with externally, also internally. So although Give Back is a huge part of what we do, it's not our only aspect of social impact. And I think that's really important for every company to remember, it's more than just giving money back. It's, are you also making sure that you're a good company, an ethical company? You treat your employees well. So that's what being a B Corp, which is kind of a stamp of being a good company. That's why it's so important to us to also make sure that we hold on to that certification. So that's a big part of what I do as well.
And what is the motivation for this at the end? I mean, obviously I get it. We all want to be great people. I'm all for impact. I do a lot of impact investing myself, but I'm curious, how does a company like Lemonade or your team, how do you get to a point where you're so committed to driving impact within a company that who's positioned perhaps in the insurtech space? It's not necessarily one-to-one with thinking through impact and charity, if you will.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's the amazing thing about Lemonade is that you wouldn't expect an insurtech or any kind of startup to be as impactful as they have been. And I think the real motivation is that there was almost no underlying motivation at all. It's not that we're trying to bring in new customers or do something super smart and trying to trick anyone. It's very authentic. It's just people who wanted to do good and create a product that does good and makes a difference. And I actually think that's the key, because if your impact isn't authentic, then your consumer will see right through that. If they think that they're just, it's just an add-on or it's something you're doing in order to make you buy what, the product that you're producing. I think consumers, me and you, we're smart. We can see through that when it comes to a company. So it has to be authentic. It has to be true to who you are as a brand. And I think that's what Lemonade does so well, because Give Back was there from the very beginning. It wasn't something that happened as an afterthought. It was built into the product before we even launched. I mean, we were a B Corp from 2016 before we even sold our first policy. So impact was kind of like integral to the brand before the brand became anything else. And I think that's the real key to successful impact.
So take me through a little bit about the internal process that you have, partners that you work with. Where's this money coming from? How does this thing fit into a publicly traded company? And like you're mentioning, this is the system that you've been working on, way before this, this blew up as a huge, as what Lemonade is. What is sort of the internal process here?
Yeah, so anybody who signs up for Lemonade, they get to choose a give back cause to donate their unclaimed premium to at the end of the year. And you can select from over 100 plus nonprofits in all the countries that we're live in. And this will be your cause that you will donate to year on, year out. And then every year we will gather the funds and we will run through it with our charities, choose the designated projects, making sure that we know where every single dollar goes. So that we can verify that impact and feed that back to our customers. And we work with incredible organizations, 350.org. They're the largest climate grassroots organization out there. March for Our Lives is a gun violence prevention charity. Cure Childhood Cancer is a cancer charity working to support young child cancer patients. A huge range of nonprofits. And, the incredible thing about Give Back is we work with small organizations like Save the Bay, to the very large organizations like the American Red Cross. And we don't distinguish as long as they're a good charity and we know that they're doing the best that they can and they're, a legal charity, of course, and tick all our regulatory boxes, then we will make sure that, we can give as much impact to them as possible.
And so just to make sure I understand, sort of the aligned incentive here is that if we can create trust with a mechanism of give back where we actually show our customers that the underutilized premiums are actually going to a charity of their choice rather than perhaps a Lemonade, then both you're giving back to the community, you're also creating trust with your users. But and that's beautiful. Still, there must be some process of how do you even know which charities to offer? I mean, guess some charities, just like businesses, are more efficient with their funding or less efficient with their funding. Do you have any consideration, or does that even come into play?
Yeah, we want to make sure that our consumers can trust us. It's really important to me, especially as someone who is leading on the social impact front, that every charity that's available on our app has been properly vetted. They have a long list of regulatory forms that they need to send in that our legal team will check, make sure that they align with our brand, so they're not involved in any scandals that, or take any stances that we can't stand behind as a company. Like, that's so important to me because you want to make sure that as a customer, you're providing, the best charities available and that we can make sure that we know exactly where every impact goes. So yeah, we definitely, try and work with as many charities as possible, but only the good ones.
I love that. No, I mean, I think that, one of the big questions that I think coming in from my end as an impact investor is, trying to figure out how to measure what a dollar that I give, how is that going to be translated to tangible impact? And I think that as you're working with many, many partners, it's an interesting thought experiment to see, okay, how can we create a strategy for working with the most efficient charities? But I want to tie this back to sort of your own journey. If you're looking at the work that you're doing now with Lemonade, how does this tie into your own personal fulfillment for what you want to be doing in this world?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought that I would end up working for an insurance company.
Yeah.
I always worked for a nonprofit. I thought that was the only way that I could make an impact. And then similar to you just spoke about impact investing. I started to learn a lot more about the benefit corporation model, the B Corp model, what it meant to be a for-profit that kind of had impact at its core. And I really understood that this is actually a way to maximize impact. And like you said, you want to know exactly where the money is going. Every time pre our give back, we run impact reports where we work with the charity to break down every single dollar. So we know exactly where your money is going. And I think that was something that was really important for me, is that when I started to look for the job that I wanted to end up in, I had to think outside the box a little bit. Did I want to stay within the nonprofit sector, or was there a way to create maximum impact at a different kind of company? And I actually just looked up B Corps in Israel when I was looking for work. And at the time, I think there were only 3, Lemonade being one
Wow.
of yeah.
Huh.
And I knew I wanted to work for a B Corp. And so that's how I came to Lemonade. I really fell in love with the business model. And it really seemed too good to be true. But having been there for up to 4 years now, I know that the impact is as good as they make it sound. It's genuine, it's authentic, and it's true impact.
I love it. So I'd love to spend the last 5 minutes we have, talking a little bit more strategically about how do we take this or the lessons that you've learned and sort of play them out for an industry or an ecosystem wide. How do we take traditional companies and figure out how to create sort of these creative give back solutions or these win-win situations in which the profitability of the company is directly aligned with the positive impact it creates on society?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the first thing that every company should do is take a look internally and say, what do my employees care about? And what do my consumers care about? Is there something that we align on? Is LGBTQ plus or the climate? Is that something that stands true for us as a company? And then how can we take practical steps to then show our commitment outside of that? Is it monetary donations? Is it volunteering? We work with Deed, which is a very cool, volunteer platform that helps our employees give back. So that's another way that we can integrate impact into our day to day. And I think that's something that every company can do, even if it's just one volunteer day, a year. I think it goes a long way. And the same as saying, partnering with one charity that really speaks to you or speaks to your team is a really easy way to just kind of enter into the impact space. It's just small steps. I mean, the give back started in 2017 around $50,000, and now we've done $6 million in 6 years. So step by step, it's grown into something incredibly substantial. And we never underestimated the power of a micro donation, which kind of goes back to what we were saying, when I was 16 and I realized that $5 donations can go a long way. It's the exact same message at Give Back. And so my biggest advice would be, don't underestimate the power of the small donation, because it's stable, it's consistent, it will build impact over time. And I think that's a real key to driving impact to other companies.
So what I'm hearing you say is that there is a lot. It's important to give room to this idea that it's not a zero sum game. It's incremental changes, and any incremental positive movement in the impact space, you're doing well, and it's going to continue growing. I'm curious how much of this is ingrained in sort of a company's culture rather than a separate unit within the company that's sort of in charge of this impact side. And then the rest of the company is perhaps aligned or not aligned with what's happening. What have you been observing to be helpful? Should the whole company be involved with this impact conversation, or should it be a designated team that just deals with it? What's the best?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think impact, when it lies at the core of a brand, has to touch on every team, especially when it's a key part of the product. You can't really separate it from what Lemonade is. That's my experience on the inside. So for example, our designers and our developers work on our impact reports, and they're super excited to do so. And we produce these beautiful reports. I recommend everyone go check them out. And so that shows like the collaboration kind of across the teams. And the same goes, we did a company-wide volunteering during Give Back this year. It really makes a key part of why people come and work at Lemonade. It's because they know they can work at a firm that is excited about impact. I have employees messaging me the whole time, suggesting charities, telling me about charitable days or volunteer days that they've got planned. And I think there's a real feeling of excitement around impact. And it's something that, like, I know as a millennial or a Gen Z, like, I look for that when I want to, apply for a job. And I know my friends look for it as well. So I think it's really important that it's not just sitting in one team, but it's really company-wide.
Phenomenal. I love it. Now, if you're thinking throughout your own journey, and again, extending sort of this train of thought, this connecting dots, where do you see yourself? What is your vision for yourself in the impact that you want to make in the world? Do you have some sort of place you want to get to, or some vision for what or what mark you want to leave here? Because it sounds like you're very vision oriented in your journey.
Yeah, definitely. I think to see someone leading social impact at every company would be the dream. I think if you can have social impact embedded in every product, I mean, that's really what we should be seeing. That should be a much finer line than we already see between for-profit and non-profit collaboration. And that would be my vision, just to kind of keep growing the social impact sector, especially in Israel. It's growing a lot recently, but making people much more aware of it would be the best thing.
I love it. Nina, thank you so much for your time and for the great impact that you're making within Lemonade, but the inspiration in general. So thank you very much, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very, very much.